Hello, everybody, and welcome to our webinar. I'll just share my screen, and in a minute we can get started. I can see we have Sabrina from the TIPA organization, so welcome. It's a pleasure. There we go. So I assume, let me know, we can see both screens properly. I'd like to really encourage you all to ask as many questions as you may have using the chat button. We have some of our team members present as well, who will be able to answer any questions you may have. If you want to follow up after as well, we'll have our team reach out to you should you have any questions. And so, yeah, so for this webinar, what we're really going to focus on, okay, is showing you what we're all about, giving you a bit of a summary of what it is that we're trying to solve for, and our vision as well of the current state of agriculture and how technology can really aid and boost, obviously, the management of your farm, and whichever crop or whichever part of the world you're in. The agenda today will follow that guideline. We'll obviously talk about our members who are been very nice of allowing us to host this webinar, which is TIPA. So we'll quickly go through that, and then obviously we'll talk about the challenges that are present today, which leads to the next section, which is when there is a need, basically, why do we exist and what do we do? We'll go over some case studies and testimonials, and then we'll leave some space for any questions, and obviously refer you back to our main partner of the day, which is TIPA. So just a quick summary. I'm sure you're all aware, but it's always nice to talk about our member. It's such an important organization for us, especially because it joins obviously two of our main markets today, which is obviously Mexico, which we've always had an activity in since we started commercializing our product, and the USA, which is obviously an important player in agriculture. And I think that the main thing to highlight about what TIPA represents, it's how they are constantly involved in addressing challenges in your interest as members, and advocating for everything that is the shared benefits that technology may have, or any innovation, or anything that could obviously help you as a grower improve your operations and your growth as a business. Testament of that is obviously it's a pretty large organization. We're talking about 380 plus members in the past 80 years. So just to really put the spotlight on something, I think that at least for me, from my point of view, working with ID, it's something that we come across constantly, and no matter where we go, right? It can happen with some of our clients in Egypt and South Africa, but also in Europe, and definitely all across Latin America. And this is that we're all facing what is a global problem, and obviously it's addressed with a global solution. The first big pillar, and I'm sure you're familiar with it, is obviously the rising costs. There's obviously two different angles to this. One being weighted in the phytosanitary element in the inputs, and how that has risen in cost, also due to issues in supply chain and inflation and many of that. And then on the other hand, we have rising costs in labor, and that's also a global issue, specifically shining the light in Europe in the past months, as you've seen in the news. The second big block is obviously, if we imagine that rising costs is the problem, inefficiencies is what I'd say is the status quo, right? It's what we've done in the past 100 years or longer, even if it has developed, it might not have fully adapted to the latest technologies. And today we can say firmly, from having observed across the board, we are not leveraging the latest technologies. We're still running operations using traditional methods such as pen and paper and so on, which really obviously does not allow us to make the most benefit of aggregated data, which essentially is what allows us to make better decision. If you can't measure live, if you can't measure, you can't manage. This is essentially the missed opportunity and the inefficiencies that we have today. And finally, if that's the status quo and the current situation for the problems, we can also look ahead, right, in the as to what's going on and the future, which is obviously the impact that climate change may have and the unpredictability of running farm operations, as it's always been the case. It doesn't look like it's going to get any better in that front as well. So we need to have tight day-to-day live operations in the running of our farm operations. Deep diving, just a few statistics to support what we've just highlighted. Firstly, this is, I think, quite a shocking. I mean, I don't think this graph is more representative than what you've probably felt yourselves running your businesses, and it's the reality is that we're looking at a 28% average, specifically, obviously in fuel. I think everyone has been impacted by this, but on fertilizers and pesticides and seeds, and specifically in irrigation, we're obviously struggling, contrasted with the fact that we're not necessarily selling our products or channeling them on a sales front at higher prices. This is obviously attacking our margins and our ability to keep growing as a business, to obviously deliver what everyone is in agriculture for, right? Which is for a sustainable future and providing food for the greater good. The inefficiencies, obviously, I think there's two faces to it. One of them is obviously the way that we inefficiently control our resources, that being how we control the use of water or the products that we use on our day-to-day. It's hard to imagine that everyone has a tight control in their day-to-day in the farm of how much fuel is being used or how much fertilizer is being applied. And are we able, based on what we understand that we did today, are we able to make changes for how we use it tomorrow? And the answer for that, I think, in the majority of the cases is no. And the reason being because we do not have a way, we don't have a method of obviously controlling in real time the use of our resources. Okay, some of them are harder to control, such as energy, right? Obviously, this is we can make certain changes in this, but some of the other ones are very easy to control if we make use of technology, and that could be the use of fertilizer in a job order, in no matter what crop or what situation. The other side of it is more about how we run our organizations, right? Everyone knows that a piece of paper can blow in the wind and can be easily disappear or lost between other pieces of paper, and that's already lost information, right? It's also lost communication. Anything that is many of the farms that I visited in the last year, the main communication that there is between teams and about what has been done on the field tends to happen over a phone call or perhaps via WhatsApp or an SMS. And this is not information that can be used or leveraged by other team members in the farm to make decisions. It's just lost information. It's just used in that moment. It's what we call transactional communication, but it doesn't leave any records, right? The same with labor inefficiencies. Most of the management that is done today, or that traditionally has been done, is purely by word of mouth. How did this person perform today, or how did you think that person performed today, is purely based on pure vision of what's happening from a supervisor, for example, and then it's relayed via word of mouth to the admin, and no real impact can be had on where that person is more productive, if that person shouldn't maybe be part of the team, or if that person can be incentivized in a different way, or if he's a keeper, if he's a person that we should be keeping in the team and putting into bigger tasks. So the use of our labors, which are usually 50% of our total costs, or it can range between 30 and 50%. It's obviously not the most optimum way of taking care of this. So as it says there, right? It can impact up to 20% in the total cost, and the list goes on, right? I think this list is even short for the amount of things that we can optimize for, but it's clear that once we begin to have collection of information, we're able to impact by subset every single part of our business with real time and agile information. So that's our way of seeing it, and that's also how we're born. And I think it's important to understand that it's not simply that we heard about this or we read about this, and that's how ID tries to solve for this. ID is actually rooted as a field operating system. It is completely being designed from day one from our founder, who comes from a background who, in his childhood, has faced operations in agriculture, specifically in grape operations, and knows the intensity and the different inefficiencies that can happen, right, in the day-to-day of a farm. It's at the end of the day an orchestration of many things going on at the same time that leads to miscommunication and all the other issues that we mentioned earlier. So that's the source of inspiration, or should I say the frustration that he's been able to observe to kickstart this project, right? That's, let's say, the spark. But what happens after, one has to go to obviously the farms, visit different crops, understand the different frustrations, connect the dots, and allow for design of a platform, of a solution that is not just based on what we think is right, but it's actually just an answer to the voices that we've heard over the past 2 years. Okay, and that's how ID has been founded, basically by farmers for farmers. Okay, and we still do today. And we will in the future, because it never ends. There's always going to be problems, but it'll be our obviously target to address as many of these problems as quickly as possible. So what are these different voices that we hear, right? What are the most common things that we hear that the growers would like to see in their day-to-day? I'll let you have a quick look at the different features and different problems that we can address, and if these resonate, please do let us know in the chat. So to deep dive a bit, and this applies, by the way, our solution applies both to farms and pack houses, because at the end of the day, these inefficiencies, these costs obviously occur in both contexts. The first one would obviously be around workforce management, right? I think real-time visibility of our costs, specifically, where am I losing money? General analysis. Why is one plot more expensive than another when they're in the same conditions, right? This is something that, on a day-to-day allows us to zoom in, right, and see what's going on. Inventory management, with obviously its subsequent approval cycles. So I want to know what's going in, what's coming out. Automated payrolls, which basically means that as you scale, hopefully, your operations and your workforce, you don't have to scale your admin to cover for all of this. You just continue growing your team, and it will make no difference. At the end of the day, it's all generated automatically, leveraging the data. The record keeping, the cloud storage, and the data analytics, it's all the backbone of any IT system. All the information collected has many different uses. It could be sometimes very important for any other sort of administrative tasks. If you need to go through an audit, if you need to integrate any of these informations into your maybe existing ERP, and do some bookkeeping or having some accounting, or recollecting, and you have some lines that are better collected, so some lines of data that are better collected by ID, that's no problem. That's a source of information that you can send through to your other platforms. And finally, and I think this has been for the past decades, obviously traceability, right? It's our biggest friend often for detecting problems internally and externally. It's also a boost for exports, right? Specifically, speaking to some of the members here in TIPA, I'm sure that many of you are involved in exporting. This is clearly a requirement, commercially speaking. So it is obviously something that has come up. It's some numerous times as well. What would it look like? And what you're seeing here is a demonstration, right, of our product and what it looks like from, in this case, from an owner's point of view, right? Let's imagine that, as it says at the top, I'm John, right? And I want to have a look at different sort of insights that I can gain to make better decisions tomorrow, right? So what can I see? I've got my operations, my active workers, and my active supervisors, and I can address the incidents that have been raised immediately. By clicking on it, zoom it in, I can see the pictures. I can see, well, like what's going on in this plot specifically, what's this disease I have to take care of immediately. And maybe you're in one farm, or maybe you're out of town, and this can be addressed very efficiently. What you see chronologically on the right is the activity of the jobs that are being ended. Okay, so you can see, for example, there that the packing in this pack house specifically is where we're looking at. The packing of the orange has ended in line 4 at 10 a.m., right? So it's very, very specific. It's not like it's been ended anywhere in the farm. It's very specific, right, to the line, and you can trace it down to who and when, right? So very, very interesting in this sense to obviously then chronologically have a look at the performance per line. As you can see in the productivity chart, you can filter by line and draw your comparisons on costs and productivity, right? Moving more on to field operations, which obviously is very hard. And many of you might be wondering, okay, this is great, obviously, but it's not possible that with the connectivity that I have, that's not a problem. All the information that we collect happens in an app that we've developed that works offline. Okay, we've tested it in many different contexts and countries, and it works offline. Apart from the fact that it's a very intuitive tool, I doubt, honestly, from experience, that you'd experience any problem on this side. So what we're seeing here is, I think, one of the most effective ways of manage live operations in the field, and it's by deep diving in a cost breakdown and comparing it by plot, because usually this benchmarking of our own plots is what allows us to make decisions as quickly as possible. And this is the level of visualization that you'd be able to have, where you can go into the details about what jobs have happened, what fertilizers, what pesticides have been applied by who, and who has approved it. And just in general, overall, how much has it cost us? How much did it cost us over a period of time? So it could be yesterday, it could be last week as a whole, or it could be last month. Okay, so all of this could be analyzed immediately in a software that doesn't have to be downloaded. You just sign in from your website, and you'll be able to see all of this information live. Why is live? Why do I say live like this? Because we know that many of you have to wait a week, a month, or even a quarter or a year to be able to consolidate all this information that you're seeing now in real time, because it has to go through the input of manual of paperwork. It has to create an Excel sheet, and then you're missing half of the papers that never got handed in 2-3 weeks ago, right? So it's also about the precision of the information you're reading. If you just take a step back to what we were mentioning at the beginning, right? Resources, one big bucket of costs is labor. Another big bucket of costs is how we manage, right? Our one of our most costly resources in our costs, right? Which is obviously products such as those that you see here in this particular scenario. We're looking at a warehouse where we have the inputs that have been requested for usage in the farm are 140 kilos of potassium nitrate, 185 kilos of phosphorus, and 80 kilos of ammonium sulfate. And we know exactly where this worker is going to want to apply, so exactly in which fields they're going to want to apply this. The control of what comes in and out is a key, and I've seen many feedbacks around this. It's not just a key view into controlling things like fraud and mismanagement, but it's just a very good understanding of what's coming in and out and what we really need to use in our technical operations. Okay, so here we can see that the requester is Manuel David. Whoever you designate in your organization to make these decisions will have to approve these, and that's one request. But you have to imagine with all these things, if you do every day all the requests that you're receiving, the impact that you can have at the end of the day in having this integrated in your operations is massive in terms of money that you're saving. And it's hard to believe just from one, obviously, but just multiply it down the line over the span of a year, and you'll realize what we're trying to do. And obviously, I think we mentioned a bit before, but the pack house management is obviously something that we care about as well. It is equally for those of you that also do packaging in field. You want to obviously have a look at the output that each line is generating, and obviously being able to integrate everything that's traceability in a reliable way. So it's a very similar logic to what happens on the field, but it's completely adapted, obviously, to what happens on in the pack house. And I know it's a lot of information, but if you just if you might be imagining even you might even be overwhelmed by the fact that all of this can happen, and you can transform your farm to operate with this philosophy or this thought, right? You can transform your farm to be able to read everything in real time, but you won't be left alone. It's not like we just provide you the solution and then we disappear. Why? Two reasons. We're very conscious that it is hard to change and transform the ways that you've been doing things, okay? And it can be overwhelming. So we have a dedicated team that will be with you, and it won't, and it's honestly for us about building a relationship. It's a win-win for us because we obviously learn a lot, right? From you letting us in to your operations and seeing what is there to be fixed. We learn a lot. And in return, we'll go as deep into your operations and into your implementation to ensure that you're having success, okay? And that's why our customer success management, every time that we have a new client, we have a I could speak for everyone in our team. Everyone has a good relationship with many different farm managers or supervisors whoever has been assigned to take the task on the client side. So it's one of our pillars in the company. For some, and if it's requested by the client, we even offer field support, which is obviously it's not always needed, but in some situations where we have the proximity or where the project is very large, we obviously have this option, and we always have an available technical support. Should there be anything going on, we obviously have that reactive team to support. So that is everything. I hope you've understood the problem, the situation, the solution, and how we can help, and our interpretation of that solution, right? And I think our philosophy is very important, right? How we try to come across this. And so we really hope that between those that are here, that you reach out, because we obviously would love to hear about how you think this solution could help, or if you think, hey, listen, it's an interesting idea, but I think that this is the way that you should think about it, or this is what's missing, because that's how we're going to obviously keep improving in what is our overall mission. So I'll leave the floor. I think there's a section here for Q&A. This is just some of our customers here, and I'll proceed to answering. If there are any questions, I'll just leave the floor now for 2 minutes. Type away. So we've got a question here, and thanks, Keith. Please do, if you have any questions after, follow up with us. We're more than happy to discuss with you. We've got a question here. Do you guys offer a worker attendance solution? Absolutely. We have two different ways to address this in the farm. One of the solutions is registering attendance using facial recognition, which is evidently the most secure way, and it basically recognizes the worker as it comes into the farm, and it timestamps the time of arrival, and it is 100% accurate in its identification of the worker. So that's one option. It's not time consuming, by the way. It is as quick as a supermarket checkout for passing by person. So it doesn't take time. The other solution, which is, I guess, as equally as valid, it's using QR codes. So every time we generate a worker, every time we create a worker on the platform, they are associated with a QR code. And this can be used perfectly as a method of authentication for the worker. Attendance at the end of the day is very important for us as well. It's where we're able to identify who is in the field, right, and at what time, and if they're productive and their productive hours. So it's it's again, it's just a digital solution to what has always happened. It's just that it actually leaves a timestamp in real time. Any other questions? Someone is asking, how can I know what inputs I used in each plot? So one of the ways, so the main way to do this basically, when the supervisor is creating a fertigation order, so a fertigation task, okay, so basically, which they can program ahead, by the way. So you can sit on Sunday and you've received the instructions from the advisor or the agronomist, okay, on what has to be done on the field for the following week, okay. In this moment, we can either program for the week the fertigation tasks that have to be done, okay, or we can create them at the moment at the same time, okay, for the same day. In any case, when we're creating the task, we select the plot that we're going to do the task in. Okay, if it's a fertigation task for such as applying pesticide, we will then choose from a drop-down list which inputs we're going to apply. And in this case, it could be a fertilizer. We choose it and it's specific to us because we obviously provide the full catalog that you would have in your stock. And once you've picked it, and then once you've completed the task, what will end up happening is it leaves a record, and you've already specified which plot, which product, which fertilizer, what time. Okay, so again, that's one example. Now multiply it by 1,000, you have a lot of insight as to what has happened. Okay, and specifically around costs and also remember that because I have selected that fertilizer, it's discounted from the warehouse. Okay, so we have control of the inventory as well and what's left in terms of quantity. Any final question? Now is the time. Okay. Excuse me, I was missing here. Is it available? So someone, sorry, I couldn't see some of your questions. Someone asked, is it available in Spanish? Absolutely. Also in Arabic and French. And as we continue to expand, we're obviously we'll be able to adapt this to whatever language is needed. It is completely available in Spanish and has been for a while. Is it easy to use? And are the same solutions available? Absolutely. To the same problem that is global, there are many, obviously, solutions, but there are very different interpretations. We're really focused in difference to other solutions. We're very focused specifically on everything that is resource management. So everything that is management around your labor costs and your input costs, which are the majority of your costs. So that's our interpretation of the solution to the problems we mentioned at the start of the webinar. But by all means, it's a growing industry. Is it easy to use? This is without a doubt probably where we differentiate the most. When we say that we learn from the farmers for the farmers, it's particularly around these kind of product design features. So we have always had a way of designing from the start. And the best example would be when you take our field app, which is what is used to collect the information from the field by the supervisor, I'm pretty sure you won't see a single point in time other than some numbers where you have to write or even really think, because it's all buttons. It's all really designed in big buttons in case in case your hands are dirty or whatever it is. And the same thing with the offline connectivity. It'll never bug you. I'll never tell you it won't upload, etc. So overall, I think it is intentionally made so that it is easy to use. So thank you for that question. Very intuitive. One question we have here is, in how much technical details does the recording go for each crop, like requirement of kilos of KPA and kilos for this crop? We always take the measurement unit, okay, for it's how we set up the tasks and the inputs. We always associate a measurement unit for the productivity of that task or of that input, okay? So you can go in that level of detail. You can see if there are 20 trees that had to be done. You can see that there's exactly 18 trees. If it's boxes, it's boxes. If it's kilos, it's kilos. Okay. So you can really go into this level of detail. As someone just asked, I think it's before I had mentioned, if my farm doesn't have good internet connection. I think most people's farms. Have you guys thought about this? Absolutely. It works offline almost since day one. Does the app work offline, or do I need the same question? So clearly this is something that's important for you. So absolutely works offline. So kudos to our very large and big engineering and product team that makes up the majority of our team, who are able to ship these kind of latest cutting edge technologies. So we're really in good hands. I think that's it in terms of questions. Thanks a lot for engaging. You reminded me many things that I wanted to mention, so thanks a lot. One last question just came in. You mentioned something about an approval workflow. Can you elaborate on this? Is this used to approve some tasks? The way and I think that this in many ways sounds more complicated than what it is, because you're probably doing it some way or another today, but you're probably doing it in an efficient way, right? I think everyone who has valued resources in their inventory or in their warehouse would like to know when something is going to be used, right? When it's taken out. And simply what we can do in the app is to make sure that when someone is setting up or programming for a task or trying to use an input from the warehouse, we can make it go through a set of approval workflows, whether it's in management or finance, to make sure that this is a validated and reasonable amount of volume or weight that we're going to use for the task. So you can set this up completely customized. It can be as long as you want. It can maybe have 3 steps. It can have 1 step. It can go to the CFO first, and then it can go to, so truly customizable. So I think that is it. I do really, please, like, if you have, I really want to insist on this. We're going to follow up with all of you that have attended. We will have a special offer for you, for everyone that has attended, on behalf of our collaboration with TIPA. So I'll leave also, if you have any questions, my WhatsApp number, my phone number, and my email, and our website. We are honestly more than happy to do a demo with you and your team as many times as you need. Go in full detail, show you in an interactive way, grant you access, let you see what it's like to use this platform. So please, any of these requests, and we'll send an invitation for you to book a demo with us in any case. But should you want to contact us, this is obviously my contact details. Okay. So thank you very much. Very, 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 very big thank you to TIPA. You're honestly a very valued partner for us. I think we're fully aligned with everything that you represent, which is obviously making all of your members' lives easier, to always be up to date with the latest technology, and your consideration of us in that space is obviously an honor for us. So thank you. And you have our social media here as well, should you want to follow us. And that's it for today. Thank you very much. Take care.